Hello, I'm Rob Evans from Pheasant Acre Plants, and we specialise in gladiolus. Now you can see these are Nanus gladioli. These are small flowered gladiolus. This is a pot that we've planted last October, and as you can see, a mixed pot of Nanus varieties. They're all flowering around about 2 foot above the pot. One or two just starting to go over, but a good range of colour. The varieties in this pot are the variety Charm, Charming Beauty, which is the lighter of the two pinks, which you can see in here. Variety called Volcano, very attractive coloured variety, deep throated colour of deep magenta. This one is called Natalie, bright vivid orange with scarlet throat on the centre. Very attractive flower. And last but not least in the container, we've got Elvira. Elvira, this pale pink with the lovely magenta pink in the throat. Now, how do we go about planting containers for gladiolus? First of all, the corms. Let's look at the corms. Now, gladioli corms come in different shapes, different sizes, different forms. As you can see here, these are round about the size of a 10p piece, a little bit bigger, one shoot just starting to come on them. Now, we're going to look at planting one for now that we would plant around about the middle of May to the end of May. This will give us a container, something like we've got here now, but in August through September. Plenty of different colours, but also at this time of year, we can underplant this pot with things like petunias, with ageratums, or some other colourful foliage, ajugas, variegated thymes. They can all be low growing. They won't take too much nutrient from the soil, but the gladiolus can come up through those quite quickly. Anything that's low growing can be planted around these. Now, the corms that we've got, just to give you a little idea, I'm going to trim one or two of the outer skins off these, so then you can see the colours of the corms. Now, gladiolus, very normally, the lighter colours, the pinks and the creams, will have light coloured corms. On the darker colours, the purples and reds, you'll have darker colour corms. So as you can see there, they're all perfect. Now, on the larger flowering varieties, which again we can plant in containers, but what we've got to remember is we need a container that's big enough to take the corms. Now, you want a container something around about this size. Now, height wise, you're looking around about 12 to 15 inches deep and perfectly 12 to 15 inches diameter. I'm working in inches because I'm that old. So, in the center of this pot, we're just going to break up some polystyrene. One, it makes the pot a little bit lighter for you to lift, and it gives plenty of drainage in the base. Now, you can use other things if you've got broken pots, the old terracotta clay pots. They can be used in the base of this. Anything that will give us drainage. So we're breaking up. So we've got a good 2 inches of drainage in the base of the pot. Now, this year, all our gladiolus and all our bulbs have been grown in silver grow with added peat-free compost with added johnniness. And we have found that we've got excellent results. We've given sufficient food throughout. We've been giving the odd every 10 days to every 2 weeks an additional feed of maxi crop, which is a high seaweed fertilizer, which gives it plenty of colour. It's a potash based, gives plenty of colour, and you can see the richness of the colours coming from the gladiolus. So we feed, once they're up about 6 inches in height, every 2 weeks, 1 watering can, quite easy, and you're doing around about 6 to 8 watering cans throughout the growing season, and these will come give you plenty of flowers. Now, just by looking at this container here, you can see some full flower, some coming just out into flower now. You've got some shorter ones, but as you can see, they've all got plenty of bud. This pot has been in flower for roughly about 2.5 to 3 weeks. You can see on this one here now, I'm bending out, just a couple of the flowers dying back. But what's good about the Nanus gladiolus is they get a secondary stem coming up. So you can see the first flower stem, the secondary stem, that comes up as well. So you've got plenty going through. As I said, these now, planted now, the middle to the end of May, will come into flower roughly middle of August to the beginning of September. Now, in a pot of this size, as I said, we've got our base first of all done. Now we're going to put in some of the compost. And as you can see, it's a nice open compost. You don't really need to do much with this compost. It's quite open. There's sand in it for a little bit of drainage. So just breaking it up in your hands and in it goes. Now, we want to fill this pot with around about 25 to 30 gladiolus corms. Now, we're going to use some of the larger flowered. Now, these are the ones that we have on our displays, which are the big flowers, about 4 to 5 inches across. Again, these can be grown in containers this size. So where we've got the short ones, you can do a container full of short ones, a container full of large ones. The large flowered ones will be flowering around about 3 to 4 foot in height. Now, again, these can be underplanted with bedding plants or various other plants. And we've got a pot this size because it's got plenty of stability, and also it's not going to dry out, because gladiolus in pots must never be left to dry out. They need plenty of moisture throughout the growing season. Now, lots of people come and tell me that why do their gladiolus shrivel up when they come to flower? And 9 out of 10 times is that when the gladiolus are coming into flower, problem being is we've got very hot and warm temperatures. People come along and in pots they don't water them enough. So in the ground or in the garden, when the gladiolus sheath comes through the buds and the sheath is visible, we need to be watering 2 to 3 times a week in pots, and 2 or 3 times a week as well in the garden. That then will give plenty of nutrients, which is in the ground, and plenty of fluid to the gladiolus stem itself. So we're coming up now roughly to where I want to be on the level of the compost in the pot. I'll just tip it forward. We want roughly about 6 to 8 inches from the top of the pot to the base of the compost. So now the gladiolus. Now at this time of year, when we plant out, especially in pots, just a little tip, take off the outer skins, and by doing this, the shoot that's underneath, which we'll come to in a second, and watch when you're doing this with your knife, you can see the lovely skins now. As we're going further and further into the corm, the skins are getting much cleaner, very shiny. And as we take off that top, we've come right to a clean corm. We can now see right in the center the shoot that's going to produce the flower. So we've cleaned the comb, and that's a lovely clean comb. Clean, round disc, the new shoot right on the top. So we're going to start by and they shouldn't be pressed into the soil whatsoever. Never press your gladioli in, lie them flat on the surface. If you press the gladiolus into the compost, what will happen is that the ring of roots, which you can see just starting to come out there, will push up against the compost if it's been pressed in. And what will happen is the comb will lift. There will then be a gap between the comb and the compost, which not now but later on, if there's dryness around, that's a dry area where there's no moisture. The root then dries out, the gladiolus will wilt. So we're planting these now around about 4 to 5 inches apart. And again, just splitting these down so you'll be able to see where there we are. You can see the two in that. In fact, on this one, there are 2 little shoots going to come, one each side. So we're planting these, as I said, about 4 inches apart in the compost. Now we're changing the colour in there. Like I said earlier on, that's a light colour comb. So, and this is a lovely dark colour comb. So we've gone, and again there you can see, taking the skin off, you can actually see the bud, the new spike coming from the comb. So we put in these, just dotting them in between. On the large flowered combs, we don't really need to put so many. As I said, on the nanas, 25 to 30. On the large flowered combs, around about 15 to 20 in a pot this size is an ideal number. So you can see there, and as I'm speaking now, look at this wonderful bumblebee. Popped in to say hello, loving the gladiolus. So there you can see the gladiolus now on the top of the compost. Looking, we're down about 6 inches from the top of the, 6 to 7 inches from the top of the compost. And now it's just a case of, again, just covering over the combs. Now, we do this in 2 ways. First of all, we're going to do it so we half fill the pot. We don't fill the pot completely. So we've put now roughly about 2.5 to 3 inches of compost over the combs, and we're ready to water. So we'll water this now. That'll compress the compost down and the combs down. Now we'll water this 2 or 3 times over the next 2 weeks. Then over the next 2 weeks we should start to see the new shoots coming through. When the new shoots come through, we leave them come up about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Then we'll add some more compost to the pot. We want to be finished around about 1 inch from the top of the pot. As you can see on this one, inch on top of the pot, we've got plenty of room for watering throughout the growing season. When the gladiolus are up about 4 to 5 inches, now very similar to a pot that we normally sell at the shows later on in July and August. As you can see here, the combs, they've all shot, lovely strong. Feel how strong these gladiolus are, and these are in a small pot. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 combs in this one. Each of the combs are sending us 2 stems up. So when it comes to flower, this variety is called Le Chic, which is a brilliant red variety, ideal for pots, only growing to around about 3 foot in height, but flowers around about 4 inches across. Now, we have a range of gladiolus, large flowered, which are available for growing in pots, and we sell them as a collection. So these are ideal for planting now in May to early June, for flowering in August, late August and early September. So they're available online. Don't forget now we've got this 3-4 inch gap. Once they're up at this height, we'll come back in with some compost and then we fill in around these again. Now, it's like top dressing. We're giving them some extra fertilizer again. So we'll do this with these. We're giving these in this container about another 3 inches of compost. So another 3 inches of fertilizer is going into the new compost, which is coming on the top. Now, we'll go right to the top of the pot with this. Now, it's doing also its second job. It's going to be doing is firming the corms. So when the wind blows, the stability now is even greater. And that's what a lot of people say to me, but when they're in pots, they get blown in the wind. These new varieties that we have as a collection, we've tried over the last 2 years, and just by looking at these here, you can see how sturdy these little shoots are. Say, Le Chic. The Nanus gladioli, exactly the same. They blow in the wind, and as we saw with the bees earlier, great pollinators. But the gladioli in this container now, they'll grow on through May, June, July and August. And each week they'll start getting taller and taller. On average, a gladioli flowers on its 7th leaf. So count the sheath. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, count 7, feel down the middle of the stem and you'll feel the thickening in the middle of the stem. This is now where the bud has formed and the spike will come through, come into flower. Like I said earlier on, when that spike comes through the sheath, important things, watering. Making sure that you're watering 2 or 3 times a week. Now feeding. Although this compost has got good nutrient for up to 3 months in there, we still need to look at giving it some extra fertilizer. And as I said earlier on, with these we've used Maxi Crop General, which is a high potash feed. That strengthens the stems, gives us rich, bold colours. And don't be afraid, 2 or 3 feeds a month from the time the gladioli are around about this size up to flowering. So you're only looking, June, July and August. 2 feeds a month, perfect. Gladioli will give you plenty of colour, late colour, end of August, early September, and especially in patio pots and in nice containers, in raised beds. They're great for cut flower to bring into the house or just as a pot on the patio. Now, things to look, as I said, when you're getting your corms, make sure you get a good size corms. We've just planted size 12 to 14s. These are guaranteed to give you flowering spikes. Lots of smaller corms, not so much with the Nanus. The Nanus varieties, as you see here, very small corms, these will give you flowers. But on the larger flowered, you need to get a decent size gladiolus corm. Right, so our gladiolus all now coming up lovely in this pot. Where are we growing them on and where did we start them off? They don't need heat. They need to be out in the garden now. If we have natural rain, they love that. But more importantly, gladiolus are native to South Africa. They need hot, sunny conditions. The Nanus, the large flowered, the species gladioli, the ones that grow in Drakensberg, all love the hot conditions. But the Nanus and these large ones are the hybrid ones from those little gladioli. Now, they all need to be kept sunny position. The more sun they get, the stronger and the shorter they grow. You find if you've got too much in the shade, you get long, thinner leaves, not short stocky leaves. So grow in sunny position. Now again, when they grow in nice sunny position, we want to make sure that, you know, there's no pest and disease. So keeping them away from trees so that there's not a lot of insects coming from the trees on them. Keep them in the open, and then you'll have some lovely straight gladiolus spikes which will all turn towards the sun, but they'll be straight. So the sunny position is the most important, and plenty of water when the flowering spike comes through. So hopefully you'll all now start thinking about growing gladiolus. They're all good for the patios, good for the gardens, and good for our bees. So look forward to hearing from you, and all the gladioli all ready to be sent out. Thank you.